Is this microphone actually worth spending money on? Let's find out. All right, if you're watching this video, you are coming here to learn about the Fifine K688. And yes, before we get going, I confirmed with Fifine that that is how you pronounce the brand name. It is not Fifine, it is not Fifine, it is Fifine, and this is the K688. And before we get started, I just want to say that Fifine did send me this microphone for free. However, they have no say over what goes into this video. They don't get to review the video. They didn't tell me what to say or anything like that. These are all of my thoughts and my thoughts alone. Now, the first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box is it's actually surprisingly well built. It's a combination of metal and plastic. Most of the body of the microphone is metal. The shock mount is metal. This little bit right here is plastic. The plate on the back and the knobs are plastic, so there are some cost savings there. But for 50 bucks, there's actually more metal than I expected, which is always a good thing. It might not be as robust as something like the Shure SM7B or the Rode PodMic USB, but for 50 bucks, what do you expect? There are two outputs on this microphone, so you have a USB-C port as well as the XLR port, so depending on your use, you could either plug it into an interface or plug it directly into the computer. Right now, I'm plugged in through USB-C because it is super convenient. On the back of the microphone, you have two dials. You have a gain control for the microphone, as well as a headphone dial as well. And you can directly monitor through the microphone if you'd like. It shows up as an output on your computer, so you can hear your voice, and if you have music playing, you'd be able to hear that music as well. On the top of the microphone, you have a mute button, which I actually have pressed a couple times without realizing it, and I looked over and I saw that I had stopped recording. Well, I was technically still recording, but the microphone had muted itself. And that was because I had the microphone upside down and I didn't realize it. I didn't even see that button until I had flipped the microphone over, and then I realized that I had muted it without knowing. But it is nice to have a mute button on the microphone when you know that it's there. Now, since this is a dynamic microphone, there should be some good background noise rejection. My room is not sound treated at all, so I do often get some reverberations when I'm recording. So I am curious to hear how that sounds in this recording. I also have a child upstairs who is having a coughing fit today, and another child who is a little bit crabby, so we got some coughs and cries happening upstairs. Really curious to see how that comes through, if at all, but we'll see how this dynamic microphone rejects some of that noise. Now, the thing with these microphones too is the sound is going to be very different depending on how close or far you are from the microphone. So let's do a quick little proximity test to see what it sounds like when I'm a little bit further away. So right now I'm about a foot away from the microphone. How does this sound? Probably lose a lot of the low end, maybe a little bit tinnier. Honestly, the microphone probably isn't even facing directly at my mouth right now, so it's not going to sound as good. Now I'm about 6 inches away from the microphone. It should start to sound a little bit better here. This is probably a typical distance for podcasters or anyone doing voiceover work or things like that. And now we have probably the sweet spot of this microphone, really right up next to it. Even on the package, it says to be about 2 to 6 inches away from this microphone, so we are pretty close. You're probably getting much more of a warm, bassy, boomy sound. But with that, sometimes can come some plosives. So let's do a quick little plosive test. I have to pull up a little script that I wrote to test this out, but let's see how the plosives sound with this microphone. Broadcasters once built pop shields from pantyhose and paper frames because powerful pops, bursts, and taps could punch through a track and spoil a perfect production. Pretty extreme example there. We'll see how that sounds, but if there were any pops, it's understandable, but if they were pretty well controlled, that is impressive because I am right up on this microphone, so any puff of air could be hitting that capsule. I'm not quite sure how good this pop filter is, but we'll see. Now also, if you're looking at this microphone, you might be exploring other options as well, and I can't give you a comparison to every microphone out there. I don't have something like the Shure SM7B, however, I do have the Rode PodMic USB, so let's switch over to that so you can hear a comparison between the Fifine K688 and the Rode PodMic USB. All right, and now you are listening to the Rode PodMic USB. It's worth noting that the Rode PodMic does come with software that allows for some additional processing, compressors, noise gates, EQ, stuff like that. I have disabled all of the processing on this microphone, so you are hearing both the Fifine and the Rode, both completely raw, unprocessed, so that you can get as good of a comparison as possible between these two microphones. Obviously, the price point of these two microphones is different. You have basically a $200 microphone in the Rode PodMic, and you have about a $50 microphone in the Fifine. And part of that price does go to the software. So obviously, Rode has quite a nice suite of software that goes with it, all of those features that I just mentioned, and that cost is absorbed through the products that they sell. So while you don't pay for the Rode software separately, it is kind of a piece that you pay for by paying a premium for this product. Now, when it comes to just the raw audio quality, if you're just comparing apples to apples, microphone to microphone, how do these sound? Is this $150 better than the Fifine? I don't think so. When I have listened back to these two microphones, I actually think they are quite similar. It actually surprised me quite a bit. I think you do have to go to something like the Shure SM7B to see a real difference. I had that microphone for a little bit. I don't do enough audio production to actually justify that purchase, so I did return it. But I think you would notice the difference between those two. With these two, I'm actually not noticing much of a difference. And just for the sake of comparing to one other microphone, I do have the Rode VideoMic Go 2. So let's try that one. That's also another microphone that you can connect via USB-C. So I'm going to do all USB-C, all microphones, and I'll shut the processing off on that one as well. So let's give that one a listen. All right, and now after I have this wild setup of microphones in front of my face, we are using the Rode VideoMic Go 2. So this is also a dynamic microphone, so we should be getting a pretty even comparison across USB-C dynamic microphones. They all kind of have their own little purposes and features. This is probably the most basic one. This one doesn't have any kind of gain or headphone control. The Rode PodMic USB does have headphone control, but no gain control. And the Fifine has controls for both gain and headphones. But what's wild is the Fifine is the cheapest of these three. The VideoMic Go 2 is about $100. The PodMic USB is about $200. The Fifine is $50. So you got a bunch of different options. They all have their pros and cons, but I'm really curious to see how these three compare from a sound standpoint. Now we're going to go back to the Fifine, since that's probably the one that you're most interested in hearing about today. All right, so we are back to the Fifine K688, and I'm sure, as you can tell, there's not a huge difference between the audio quality of these microphones. Now, when it comes to build quality, you will feel a little bit of a difference, but for something like this that's staying at your desk, does it have to be the most robust thing in the world? Probably not. You're probably going to put it on a boom arm like this, and it's going to stay on your desk forever. For something like the Rode VideoMic Go 2, that is one that you take out in the field with you. It's usually on your camera, things like that. So it's a little bit more likely to get bumped and bruised along the way. So you do want that to be a little bit more robust. But for something like this in a studio setting or an office, to save $150 is pretty sweet. I had actually recorded a test video ahead of time to see how these compare, and honestly, I was surprised by the sound quality. I think they are so similar that if you're looking for a dynamic microphone on a boom arm for either podcasting, content creation, even Zoom calls, if you're trying to level up, this is a great option. It's $50, I think, for the microphone, and this kit is a little bit more, I think about 70-ish. Sometimes it goes a little bit up, sometimes a little bit down, but for that price, you really can't beat this sound quality. I think it's fantastic. So if you're on the market for this microphone, I would say go for it. You really don't have too much to lose, and I don't think you're going to miss out too much on some of the more advanced features. If you're a full-time content creator or a voiceover actor or things like that, I would say, okay, invest in something like the Shure SM7B. But if you're not truly doing full-time audio production work and you're just looking to level up your microphone, I don't think you can go wrong with this, so highly recommend it. Check it out, and let me know in the comments below what you thought about the audio tests here, which microphone impressed you, which one sounded the best, and if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.